changes over time, it's potentially better for your customers and also better for you in terms of knowing what you've done to screw things up. So I kind of like this idea, and looking at the software that we use, more and more of it, I mean, just think of iOS, where you used to do updates, apps manually, then they became auto-updating. We're not quite at the infinite version for all software available, but moving away from like what I would call marketing releases, where the only reason you have a big thing is it's kind of like a tradition or a holdover from when you bought things in cardboard boxes. And of course there had to be a big deal because you'd have to put a new set of cardboard boxes with new art on the cover. Like doing yearly digital releases is really just kind of a holdover from that. And it seems like the trend is away from that and more towards continuous releases. And I think that I'm intrigued by this idea, and I like to subscribe to this newsletter. The upside, I said, like they're only doing these regular releases for marketing purposes, but marketing is not nothing, right? If Apple was to move to sort of a continuous release cycle for major products, that means it gives up the perk of being able to make grand announcements at WWDC or at some kind of press conference where they invite the press out to show them something. You can't get that anymore. You don't get the big bump in the press. You don't get the Apple today announced blah, 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 blah. And maybe they get that less with software than hardware, but there is a downside to this. And part of the reason Apple keeps doing these marketing releases is because it's worth it to them to get the extra hype and publicity and get people excited and seem to make significant progress. Like that's a lot of what we love about Apple, is like one day they appear and they say, hey, we've got this great idea and look at this new thing, and we go, ooh, look at the new thing. If we got that same thing in 700 steps, instead of in one big bang, it's less impressive, even though we end up at the same spot. So I think that definitely has to be a factor. I still think it's worth it, but that's the calculus they'd have to do internally if they ever wanted to move to this type of system for software release.
All right. And Eric Michaels Ober had some interesting thoughts on iPhone battery thinness.
Yes, so last week we were talking about the battery case, and I, of course, complained, as I always do, that the iPhone battery life is not good enough. And one of the theories presented was that maybe the battery case was kind of like Apple feeling out the market for a little more info on whether people really do want more battery life in their iPhones in order to inform future decisions about the iPhone designs. And our friend Eric Michaels Ober wrote in to point out that, by this time, the iPhone 7 is almost certainly already completely done and designed. The new iPhone battery case is a signal that the battery life for the iPhone 7 will probably be the same or worse than the iPhone 6 and 6S. If Apple had waited until the inevitably thinner iPhone 7 were released next year to introduce a battery case, the press would have jumped on them, saying it proved battery life in the iPhone 7 to be inadequate. Now, if